Hey, this is Dean Hunt, and welcome to How to Make 2013 Your Best Year Ever. This is going to be a video, and in this video we're going to be going over some of my quick tips to help kickstart your year, and also I'm going to be addressing some specific questions that people have sent me. So I think many of the questions will be relevant, but I decided to go with a video format instead of a webinar format for a couple of reasons. One, due to time zones. I got an insane amount of emails saying that people couldn't make it from Europe due to the time zone difference. And secondly, there are some specific questions in here, and from a usability standpoint, I didn't like the idea of people waiting around on a 45-minute webinar just to hear their question. So at least with video, I can timestamp things. You can see below this video at deanhunt.com, there'll be timestamps, and you can skip straight to these sections that are of most interest to you. So with that out of the way, let's dive into this. Like I said, it's posted at deanhunt.com if you want to check that out. And it's going to be a nice combo of questions and little tips. If you want to reach me, if you want to ask any questions, you can contact me at contact@deanhunt.com. So let's dive into it. So I'm going to run through these pretty quickly because I like to keep things short and sweet. And speaking of that, my first tip here is to go back to your ex if you're feeling unstuck. So get back with your ex. Now, a little controversial. It is a little play on words, of course. I'm not meaning literally. And so here's what I mean. If you're feeling a little stuck, and you have been for the last year or whatever, here's what I do. I want you to grab a pad and pen or a quill and parchment, depending on if you're from the 14th century or not. Either way, grab something like a pad and pen, and I want you to write down the following. Whenever I do X, good things happen. And I want you to give this some thought and figure out what your X is. So whenever I do this certain activity or this certain thing, whatever it may be, we'll define it as X because it's different for everyone, good things happen. And by good things, I mean that doors open, momentum happens, opportunities happen, maybe sales happen. Good things happen to your business and to your productivity and stuff like that. So what is your X? So for me, I've been looking back over the last year or two, and it seems like every time I do something like a webinar, or if I go and jump on a plane and go to an event, then good things happen. So really, events are my X. Like if I go to an event, whether I'm speaking there or I'm an attendee and I'm just networking, good things happen. It might not be directly at the event. It might be follow-ups a week later, a month later, 6 months later, whatever it may be. But I always come back from an event and I've got momentum. Things have happened. Often I've made a sale or numerous sales, and it's my X. And everyone's going to have a different one. For you, it might be sending out an email to your list. It might be picking up the phone even though you're terrified of it. It might be putting out a video even though you're nervous about it. And a lot of the times the X, a heck of a lot of the time, the X will be related to something that scares you, and that's a good sign. So figure out what is your X, return to your X, and then, once you've done it a little, then the next step is to scale that. It's how do you scale it? So for me, it's hard for me to scale jumping on a plane and flying all over the country or all over the world to events. So maybe I'll do more webinars, or maybe I can do virtual events, or maybe I can do local events that I can drive to instead of flying. So just bear that in mind. So I think that will help you get unstuck. At the very least, it's going to get you some momentum. So here's another tip. This is just a quick one. I want to say your idea is worthless. Controversial. You may be thinking, how dare you, Dean? I have the greatest idea ever, and I will see you in court, young man. Well, allow me to explain then, because I don't want to go to court. What I mean by your idea is worthless is that execution really is all that matters. And one of the questions I had when I emailed my audience and asked for questions, a lot of them were idea related, and they were focused on the importance of an idea, like how important is the idea. And I really don't think the idea is that important at all. Yes, there's good ideas and there's bad ideas, but if you've got an ounce of common sense or a brain on your shoulders, or people that you can speak to that are not friends and family, then you're going to have a half decent idea. But I really think it's execution that matters. So really focus on that instead of falling in love with the idea. Fall in love with how you're going to execute it, because while you're thinking about how great your idea is or waiting for the next big idea to come along, someone else has got out there and done it and made it happen and beat you to the finish line. And they're the people that are going to win. I would rather see fantastic execution on an average idea than poor execution on a phenomenal idea. I think the former is going to win every single time. So just bear that in mind. Hope that helps, and let's move on. So if you want to achieve more in 2013, I think it's really important to know your DNA. Really important. And I speak from experience here. I wish I'd followed this advice earlier, because this is something that's really helping me at the moment. And kind of at school, you're told to fix your weaknesses. Or everyone obsesses over your weaknesses. It's like, oh, you need to do more math or more science because that's where you're weak in. It's never, oh, you're awesome at music, so let's do more of that. It's all about fixing weaknesses, and we know that's not ideal, and that's not very productive, and it's not smart. So I've always been a big believer that you're better off taking your strengths and finding your strengths and becoming world-class at something you're already good at than trying to become average at something you're terrible at. And I really believe that, and I've said that many times over the last 6 or 7 years. However, there's a caveat, and this is where it's really important to know your DNA and know yourself. Yes, you should focus on your strengths, but you can't necessarily ignore your weaknesses in business. You need to be aware of them so that you can delegate them or find alternatives for them. So you can't just brush them under the carpet and expect that things are going to work normally. Yes, you don't necessarily have to do them yourself, nor would I endorse that, but a lot of them are going to be really important. So you're going to have to find someone else to do it or find some alternatives. So just bear that in mind. And in terms of finding your strengths, let's flip this around. A lot of kind of the irony here is that when you're finding strengths, it can be tricky to know what you're really good at, because the things that you're good at are going to seem easy to you. So you're not going to necessarily value them because they seem so easy. It's kind of like, well, it's just so easy to me, surely it's easy for everyone else, and that's not the case. So just have a think of, look over most of the business tasks and qualities that are important in business, and have a look at what seems easy to you but others seem to find it difficult, and that's going to be a great way of finding your strengths. So I guess I'm ultimately saying that 2013 for me is going to be a big year of looking inwards. I'm not going to be looking outwards for the next trend or fad or anything like that. I'm going to be looking inwards, and improving some areas, taking some strengths and really building around them, and hopefully you can do the same. So we've got a few questions here. This is from Miriam from morethanorganized.net, which is a great resource. She says, "Hey Dean, my biggest question is about how to decide when something is really not working for you. I find I often get excited about a tool because others are, and then when it doesn't work as well as expected, my first instinct is that I'm using it wrong just because it's technology. My second is that it doesn't work for me. Any tips on evaluation criteria so I can be more discerning about what I jump into before I spend the money? Thanks, talk soon, have a delightful day." So it's a good question from Miriam. Really, I guess we have to dive deeper into this question. If something isn't really working for you, then how do you know it's not working? What aspect of it's not working? What aspect can be improved or fixed? So what you need to do is find measurable, trackable aspects of this process. So, let's use webinar technology as the example, because I know that's something you've tried. We've discussed that in the past. So that's an example that both of us are knowledgeable about, and I'm sure people watching this as well are going to be familiar with webinar technology. So let's use that as a hypothetical example. So let's say that you've heard about webinar technology and that it's been helping people grow their business, and so you've tried it out, and you may be thinking that it's not working for you. So what does that mean? So we want to find areas that are measurable and trackable, because isn't working really doesn't specify anything. It could mean different things to different people. So I'd ask questions like, okay, well, could the attendees see and hear me? If so, then the technology is working on a base level. So if that's the case, then it works, and we know that attendees can see and hear via webinar technology, so therefore the technology works. Secondly, did people register for the webinar? If hardly any people did or no people did, then that maybe suggests that there's a traffic problem. So that really has nothing to do with the webinar technology, but of course technology can be a very easy scapegoat. So in that instance it would be a traffic issue, not a technology issue. Did people attend? If people registered and didn't attend, well, that might not be because of the technology. It may be, but it might not be about the technology. It might be that the hook or the topic wasn't of interest. It might be that the message isn't a match to the market. It might be that your time zone, you didn't consider the time zone of the audience. Something that I've been a little guilty with, trying to balance Europe and the US in terms of time zones. So maybe that's why. So again, that's nothing to do with the technology. And then maybe you're saying, well, it didn't work, like everyone registered, lots of people registered, people showed up, but it didn't make any money. Well, again, that probably isn't the technology or the software that's the issue. That's the pitch or the close or the offer or the product or the solution or the price point. So without diving further into this, it's hard to tell, but I would definitely be careful of using technology as a possible scapegoat. It is easy to say, oh, the technology doesn't work for me. Ultimately, technology is just a tool. It's one tool in a bigger puzzle, and things like, in this hypothetical example, things like the traffic and the message and the topic and things like that, and the list are going to be far, far more important than the technology itself. So hopefully that helps, Miriam, and I'd love to hear more from you. Okay, next question, Dean. My question will be about if WordPress is better to get Google love compared to a static HTML site. The reason I ask is that I have several optimized WordPress blogs out there with a page rank of 0, but a static HTML site that I haven't updated in about a year and has a page rank of 2. This made me think about restructuring my upcoming new site as HTML instead of WordPress based. And this is from Enrique from worldprelaunchaccess.com. So couple of things here. Firstly, ignore PageRank. As a disclaimer, I used to do a lot of SEO, search engine optimization, back in the day, and I'm definitely not up to speed with the latest updates. It's not an area that I focus a lot of my time and research and attention. So there are going to be better people to answer this than me. But you asked me, so I'll do my best to answer. So firstly, just ignore PageRank. It's kind of like the dashboard on a car, and it only is it's very inaccurate, and truth be told, it's largely irrelevant. I think most of the people that I've been speaking to, and even 6-7 years ago, I ignored PageRank back then. I certainly would ignore it now. Really, backlinks and quality content are going to be far more important, and ultimately PageRank is a very loose, vague indicator of your backlinks quality and quantity anyway. So, PageRank isn't the thing that makes your site rank. It's the links and the content, amongst other things, that make the site rank. And then PageRank is a very, very vague, inaccurate indicator of those components. So you're probably focusing on the wrong thing here. I know it's easy to slip into this habit because PageRank is the only output other than actual rankings that we get from Google. But I would, from now on, just ignore PageRank. Like, don't even search it. It's irrelevant. Focus instead on the basics. So good content, good links, which will come partly from good content as well. Build some quality links. Avoid all the tricks and the crap that a lot of people do with SEO. And just build out a quality site. I always go in with the assumption that if Google didn't exist and SEO didn't exist, how would you make the site? What content would you put there? And if you do that, there's a good chance Google's going to like it as well. I did check out, I don't know if you're referring at any point to worldprelaunchaccess.com. That might just be the URL you wanted me to mention here. But I did check that out, and I really wouldn't class that as a content site. It was more of a sales page. And so Google hates those pages, or those sites. So that's not going to get a good ranking regardless. So, you know, if that's the example, then the issue really is not the platform, it's more the type of site that you're putting on there. And so I would look at other areas and other traffic methods instead of SEO for worldprelaunchaccess.com that would far more suit that type of site. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so we got a question here from Jill, and she says, I'm the author of a children's book called My Body Belongs to Me, intended to teach 3 to 8 year olds how to prevent child sexual abuse. I'm also co-founder of the Innocence Revolution, a global day to end child sexual abuse slated for cities around the world in April 2013. What is the best way to get large corporate sponsors and to create a buzz about this important event around the world? Okay, so there's obviously many ways. If it was me, I think media would be the path that I would take, and you know, a lot of authors go this path, and it's very, very effective. It's not easy to do, but it's certainly very, very effective if you can pull it off. So are you open to going on TV and radio and talking about this? It sounds like you're passionate about it because you've written a book and you're creating this event. So clearly the passion's there. So if you're even remotely comfortable with the idea of being on TV and radio, then I think that's what you should do. Look at, you know, if the funds aren't there to hire kind of a PR media agent, then perhaps try and find and partner with one who shares your passion. There will be some out there. You'd have to do some research, some digging, and some phone calls, but you know, if you could partner, then that would be ideal. And what I would do is a little kind of sneaky tip that works really well is loose link your message to current hot news. So I know it's you know, it's not a subject I know anything about, but as a hypothetical example, whatever the current hot news is, if you think that that's relevant in any way, shape or form to what your message is, then you can connect the two. I call it a loose link. So for example, if there's a big football scandal regarding, you know, the coach of the college team being accused of sexual assault on the players or something like that, then, you know, you would be a great expert guest to come onto the news channel and talk about perhaps how this could have been prevented, or, you know, to share your insights on it. So you're not, the mistake that most people make is they say, okay, I've got something to talk about, I'm passionate about it, I have a message, now I need the media, I need to make the media give a crap. And ultimately they won't. The easier way is to find something that the media already care about and then kind of crowbar your way into that message and find a loose link between that message and yours. And so you can go on because of this footballing event or whatever it may be, and then you can say, well, you know, in my book we talk about this, and I think that on chapter 3 we mentioned this piece of advice which maybe could have helped prevent this, and, you know, share your expertise there. You mentioned sponsors. I think a byproduct of getting on TV is that you're going to have a lot of as seen on authority. You know, if you can get on all these channels, sponsors love that sort of stuff. So I think it's going to help you in that respect as well. So I would really just focus entirely on that path. So I wish you the best. It sounds like a very worthwhile cause, and I wish you the best. I'm just going to have a quick sip of coffee. Okay, so this is a question from Tom. Tom says, I'm at a point where I can use some good time management hacks. When time management's at a high, I have that much more time for self-improvement activities like meditation, art, refreshing my knowledge of the subject that my degree is in, etc. My URL is deepermeditation.net. So that's a good question, Tom. So here's what I do, and there's probably far better people to ask about this subject, because I also struggle with time management. You know, the first thing, and it's a little cliche these days, but it's true, is that there's no such thing as time management. It's self-management, and if you can manage yourself, then you'll manage your time. So, you know, I would definitely echo that statement. It's very true. A little trick that I do, ideally the night before, you want to grab a piece of paper and just divide it into 4 equal squares, and at the top of each square you want to highlight them with a heading, and this is my particular 4. So number 1, I do quick and easy. 2 is time sensitive. 3, money generating, and 4, someday. And what I do is I list all the things I need to do. So I'll go through my calendars, my emails, my brain box, and recount all the things I need to do for that particular day, and then I'll categorize them. So they're going to go in only one of these 4. So I put all the quick and easy tasks, so that might be check inbox, reply to email, respond to person, do 5-minute phone call, pay a bill. You know, the quick and easy things, publish a blog post that you can do in 10 minutes or less. I put them in box number 1. Okay. Box number 2 is time sensitive things. So again, this might be, I've got a call at 3:30, and so that's time sensitive. Or I've got to create these slides for this video, and this video is going to be published by 5 o'clock, so therefore this needs to be done by 3 o'clock. You know, things like that. Anything that's time sensitive, I put them in that box. And third one is money generating. So which of these tasks is most likely to generate money for me? So it could be sending out an email, it could be going to an event, it could be doing a phone call, whatever it may be. For you, then you should put them in that box. And then the 4th box is kind of like my offloading box. So it's things that should be done, but they're just not important enough to go in any of the other boxes. And maybe the ideas or things that ideally you'd like to do, but they aren't as important, and they're going to be time consuming. And so I create a folder in Evernote, which is a cool piece of software that's free, and I call it my someday folder. And so I put any ideas or things that I'd like to do in there. And you have to accept that you're not going to be able to do everything. And so you have to, if you want to achieve the big things, you have to let some of the small things through your defenses. Let them through the cracks. It's just inevitable. You have to do it. So you're better off focusing on the important things and just accepting that a couple of bills might go unpaid, or you might miss a couple of emails, or forget to send out a couple of tweets, whatever it may be. So I find that just offloading those into the someday folder gets them out of your head, and that therefore helps with productivity because you've not got all these open loops in your mind. So hopefully that helps. Once if you want to take that step further, that you can then go through the 4 boxes. Well, it'd be 3 in this instance, but go through the first 3 boxes and then number all the individual tasks, 1 to however many tasks there are in there, and then do them in that order. So you're prioritizing them in there. And ideally, I always like to start my morning with the quick and easy tasks and just get them done. It's easier said than done, but I think momentum really kicks in. It's kind of like a snowball going down a hill. It can quickly become an avalanche, and then you can just be on a roll. So that's what I do, and then I switch back and forth between time sensitive and money generating. So hopefully that helps, Tom. Best of luck to you. This is from Charles. He asks, Dean, how do I get capital? So I guess I would answer that question with a question. Firstly, why do you need capital? And second, how can you get momentum and prove the concept without capital? I'm going to quote, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's pretty much along the lines of, the day you borrow money or get funded should be the worst day of your life. And it's from Gary Vaynerchuk. And we're in a culture right now, especially in Silicon Valley and with startups and things like that, where everyone's trying to get investment, they're trying to get funded. And they celebrate. A lot of people's entire business goals is to get funding. But at the end of the day, it's not a good thing. It's taking money that you need to pay back ideally, and there's weight of responsibility that comes from that. So if you can do it without getting funded, and I know Mark Cuban agrees on this, then that's where you should start first. And really, from an investment standpoint, businesses, if they're going to give you capital, they're not going to give capital on an idea. It just almost never happens. So they're going to want to see proof of concept. They're going to want to see some traction. They're not necessarily going to expect that you make millions of dollars or that you have thousands of customers, but they're going to want to see that you have a prototype at the very least, or a demo, or that you've got a few people to open up their wallets and purchase. So I think you're better off trying to prove the concept, get some traction first, and look at ways to get that traction and that momentum without capital. You should be able to bootstrap it. If you absolutely can't, then maybe look at partnering with someone. So for example, you need the capital for programming and development, then you've got more realistic chance of partnering with someone and giving them a percentage of the company, if they share your vision, and doing it that way. So that's my 2 cents on capital, and hopefully that helps, Charles. How do I hire the right people, says Anna. Very good question. So kind of stealing this advice from Tim Ferriss, but it's definitely helped me in my business. He, again, paraphrasing, he pretty much says that reliability and the ability to take direction always beats creativity, that X factor, and the magical stuff that some people seem to have in interviews. So there's a couple of ways that you can test this during the interview process. And so if you're on, whether it be Craigslist or Odesk or Monster Jobs or wherever it may be, and you're putting out an advertisement for a job, you do what I call the almost hidden message test. And this tests people's ability to focus and take direction and follow instruction, which is really, really important. So what I would do is, and I've done this on Odesk, is I would post the job application, with details about the job, and somewhere in that message, often in the middle or towards the end of the message, I'll say something like, don't reply to this, instead call this number and leave a voicemail. Or I might say, if you reply to this email via email to this address, I need you to use the subject line SpongeBob SquarePants. Just something kind of random like that. And anyone that doesn't do that is instantly, regardless of how good they seem, is instantly gone, because they can't follow direction. They're not reliable, they're not paying attention, and so it's a great way to filter out a lot of people. Another way, if you want to take that even a step further, is to set realistic and even negative expectations during the interview. So one of the annoying things is if you hire someone and then a week or a month later they leave, or they lose interest, or it's just not what it seemed like, you're better off filtering those people out early on, and setting almost negative expectations is a great way to do that. It's kind of like a quality versus quantity play. So kind of telling people, hey, some days you're gonna have to work really late, it's gonna suck, you'll get almost no notice, it's just gonna be the way it is, and you'll have to do it. And this is how we work. It's not ideal, but this is the way it is. And just setting those expectations. If people are still interested despite you being brutally honest and even a tad pessimistic, then you stand much more chance of keeping them. So hopefully that helps, Anna, and I wish you the best of luck in your hiring process, and I'm going to celebrate in your behalf by having another sip of coffee. Lovely. Okay, how do I get new customers and clients? We had a few people ask this, a couple in particular, Victoria and Ron. So this is another one where it's kind of hard to address this as a generic one-size-fits-all answer, because there isn't such an answer. Everyone's business and styles and values and weaknesses and strengths mean that there's a different answer to this question, but really that's where I would focus. If, for example, you're running a local business, then things like personal videos, which we'll touch on in a minute, are very powerful. Phone calls, face-to-face, things like that are a great way to get new clients. Webinars are good for a lot of types of businesses. Going to networking and events, for industry events, a great way of doing it. But the clue to finding out the best way, if you're kind of new to the market, is to look at what the niche leaders are doing. So look for the A-listers, the big multi-million-dollar companies in your niche, in your market. Find out what they're doing, and that's going to be an indicator for what works. So, I wish there was a one-size-fits-all happy message I could give you that just do this and you're rocking. But every business and every person is going to be different. So hopefully that will give you the first step. Speaking of local prospects, this is from Lorena, and she asks, how do I reach local prospects? Well, one way that's has been very, very effective. Obviously, you know, the whole local marketing thing is getting quite saturated these days, to put it mildly, and so you really need to stand out. But a way that still works well is basically a personal video, taking the time to do a personal video with a custom intro. So here's kind of the gist of how this works. The first 60 seconds approximately are completely custom and personal, and it's all about them. So this is where a lot of people go wrong. They start the video and it's like, hey, my name's Dean from deanhunt.com and blah blah blah, and people lose interest because they don't know who you are, they don't care. So instead you need to grab their attention, and so make it all about them. Start the video off by showing their homepage or their logo or a photo of them. It's going to grab their attention. And say, you know, here for example, I would say, hey, this is Dean Hunt. As you can see, I'm on your website, bobsburgers.com, and I'm an internet marketer, and I just stumbled across your website and thought I'd send out a little 5-minute video with a few tips that may help you. You know, take from these tips what you will, but I figured I'd spend some time and see if I can help you. And then that's the custom phase. The rest of the video, let's say the remaining 4 to 8 minutes, are useful tips. And these are going to be pre-prepared. So pick out your 3 most useful tips that apply to most prospects that you would be reaching out to. So if you're doing SEO, it could be the heading, etc., etc. So now you're going from super specific intro to grab their attention. Then you're going to edit that into a pre-done video to save time. But they have to be useful to almost everyone in the market. And then at the end of the video, you want to do a basically do a call to action for a free call. So it's like, hey, you know, hopefully this video was of use to you and there's a tip or two that can help you grow your business. Like I said, this is what I do for a living. I've helped numerous people like you. I'm sure you're really busy. If you want to chat further, I've got another 5 or 6 really cool tips that could help you. But I know you're busy. If you would like to hear them, just feel free to call me at this number and I'd be happy to set up a free session. And that's a great call to action. It's a very low pressure call to action, and it gets them calling you, which switches the dynamic of the negotiation. Another thing on personalization is when you're sending out the email, try and host their video on a personal URL. So in my instance, let's say it would be deanhunt.com. I would then do deanhunt.com/bobsburgers, or whoever I'm contacting, so /Lorena in this instance. So again, it's just grabbing their attention. Most people haven't heard of you, therefore they're going to think spam, they're going to think sales pitch, and by making it all about them and grabbing their attention through things that are custom only to them, really removes their spam radars. So hopefully that helps, Lorena, and best of luck to you. Okay, Dan asks, what are your thoughts on Nearby? So there was no more context in the question, so I had to actually Google this, which is not a good start. But from my understanding, Nearby is an app that both, a feature, let's say, that is used both within Groupon and Facebook to show nearby deals and offers and things like that. And so my understanding is that you could go into your city center, your downtown, and you could look on either of these 2 apps and it would say, here's what's we know where you are, here's what's nearby, and here's the cool popular stuff, and here's the deals of the day that are near you right now. And you could perhaps filter that by restaurant or fashion or whatever you may be interested in. So that's my understanding. I apologize if that's not what you meant. There was no links or clarifications there. You know, I guess my initial thoughts, I've not used it yet, so I'm really not in an ideal position to give any insights here. But, you know, from my understanding of what it is, I think it could be really cool if you're traveling and you're in a new place. I think if you're interested in trying something new, it could be a good way. And of course, like a lot of people these days, if you're looking for deals, especially local deals, then I think it could be a cool app, or a cool feature. So I like the idea in principle, but you know, I have to taste it, and I've not tried it out yet. So I will definitely look into that, Dan. I appreciate the heads up, and everyone should check out dansodergren.com. Okay, Marion, Bill, and a few others had procrastination-based questions. So how do I get started, and how do I avoid procrastination? I guess what I would do is figure out or look into why you're procrastinating in the first place. I think 5% of people have ADD or ADHD, so that could be part of the reason. Maybe there's a fear of success, maybe there's a fear of failure, that could be the reason. So I think understanding why you're procrastinating or why you're avoiding getting started in the first place is going to help. One thing that does work very well is the anti-charity. And there's a website, I believe it's stick.com, STIKK.com, I believe is the name. And you can go there, and the way it works is you set a goal, like a measurable goal. So it could be, okay, I'm going to do a blog post every day for the next 6 months. And you find your most vicious friend that's most likely to hold you to this commitment. And you use the website stick.com, and you basically put some money into escrow. So they recommend, I think, 1% of your yearly earnings. So, it's a substantial amount. It's certainly an amount you wouldn't want to lose. We're not talking like $1 or 50 cents here. It's, a substantial amount of money. You put it into escrow, and your friend is basically going to act as referee. And if he or she finds that you don't do the thing that you said you're going to do, then they have the ability through the stick.com website to then send the money that you put into escrow to an anti-charity. So what is an anti-charity? Well, it's basically, it's a place that you would rather be seen dead than donating money to. So it could be pro-life, it could be anti-abortion, it could be pro-gun control or anti, it could be, there's been people that have used the KKK, things like that. It's whatever thing makes your blood churn, your stomach churn even, and your blood boil. That's the one you should choose. The thing that you would really rather be seen dead than giving money to. And bear in mind, a lot of times they'll publish the names of the donators. So forever on the internet, you will be associated with donating money to this thing that you absolutely despise. And the reason for this is they found out that the stick is far more effective than the carrot. Contrary to recent studies, they've now found that actually the stick is far more useful than the carrot, and vinegar is far more persuasive than wine. So just bear that in mind. That's my charity right now. So check out stick.com. I think that's a great way to make sure that you'll actually get stuff done, and dive a little deeper into why you're feeling this way in the first place. So Mark asks, how do I avoid getting bombarded by the next big thing? I don't want to miss the next wave. This is an interesting one, Mark. Here's what I would say. Ignore the next big thing. Don't worry about it. Chances are by the time you hear about the next big thing, it's too late anyway, in that respect. So ignore the next big thing. And also note that, if you look at the big things that have happened over the last 10, 20 years, it's not necessarily been the first person that heard about it that was successful. It's the person that executed on it the best. So, we mentioned this earlier in the video. It's the people that take action and dive into the execution and get it done quickly and get it done well. They're the ones who succeed, not necessarily the people who heard about it first. So really focus on the execution. So spend less time looking for this mystical, this thing that really doesn't exist, this next wave or this next big thing, and instead focus more on, like, how can I execute? How can I make things happen better than ever before? And if you get phenomenal at execution, then to some extent the thing that you do, the idea, is almost irrelevant. So, hate to be too blunt, but if you're sitting around waiting for the next big thing, it's never going to happen. So hopefully that helps, Mark. Okay, let's wrap things up there. This is something I've done a couple of times in the past, and it's been really, really useful, and I've had great feedback on it. So I wasn't able to answer everyone's questions, and sometimes it's hard, without a conversation and context, to really dive in and drill down into people's problems. But if you'd like a free one-to-one, no-catch call with me to kickstart your year, I'm going to take 10 or so people, give or take, depending on what my schedule can handle, because I'm traveling a bit at the moment. We'll jump on the phone, we'll jump on Skype, whatever, and we'll talk about you and your business and see if I can help. So whatever your questions are, whatever level of business you're at, feel free to drop me an email at contact@deanhunt.com, and I will definitely do my best to get back to you. We'll try and set up a call, however long it takes. We average around 15 minutes, and I'll do my best to help you. So I wish you all the best for 2013. I appreciate you watching this. If you've liked this or got any good tips from this in any way, shape or form, feel free to like, subscribe, comment, and all that lovely good stuff. And I really do wish you a fantastic 2013. We're well into 2013. We're on a roll. Let's keep it going, and speak to you soon. Take care.